Welcome in to the second official episode of another Footy podcast. I'm your host Joey, and I'm joined by someone new today. And if you listen to the trial podcast, you're probably well acquainted with him. But Baxter, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hey mate. Hope you're doing well. I'm Baxter. I'm a Tigers fan through and through, it's been a rough week. Saying that out loud, I've sort of been trying to internalize it, copping strays from family and friends who I no longer speak to and have cut out of my life. Um, and yeah, it's been a rough week, but love footy. Funny fun fact is I'm the highest paid podcaster of all time now after this appearance fee. So thanks, mate.
Yeah, I don't know. After last week, probably not.
After last week, mate, I'm about to put on a show for you. Um, yeah, no. So been watching footy all my life. Watch the other teams just because my team sucks so much, which obviously you'll know. And yeah, keen to get into it.
And just wanted to let you know that you're easily replaceable too. So,
Well, I could just say goodbye there and leave it there. If you're going to be like that, it's a bit hurtful, if I'm being honest.
well, you know what's a bit hurtful?
What,
Saying you're the highest paid podcaster on this team.
mate? Just facts. You sent me the money. You paid me the money.
In V-Bucks, let it be known.
Please, please. It's real money, real cash. Unless the
Yeah.
ATO's listening.
Cash payments, cash payments.
Yeah.
All right, well, we'll get straight into it. Your team of the round, probably fairly obvious. I think I might have a suspicion as to who, but yeah, your
Yeah,
team of the
it's
round.
this up and coming team called the Penrith Panthers. Don't know if you heard of them.
No.
They're pretty good at footy. I think I'm sort of the first person to say that. But look, it was absolutely horrible to watch that game. Just a little bit of context. I was away with my family up in Gloucester or near Tyree, Trail Mitts area. And I decided I would leave Sunday morning to be back on Sunday Arvo to be able to watch this game, which meant that I missed out on playing golf up in God's country. And as a result, every single time that Penrith scored, my uncle and cousins and even my nan were texting me the player's name that scored the try. So I got about 700 messages. Was really filthy, but mate, they were sensational. Like they are just an elite footy side. Um, you know, watching them is ridiculous. Like there's only, you think about elite teams that are just dominant. They're so system driven. They're constantly winning the ruck. Just, I think footy can be quite a very, very simple game if you go to, and just do the basics right. And there's a few things that coaches will talk about, like post contact body position and stuff like that. Penrith just non-stop land on their elbows, like they're just always getting to their feet immediately, play the ball super clean and quick, and as a result, they're just playing simple attack. Like they've got the quick ruck, the half just squares up, their lead runner holds the back rower, the sweep holds the center, and there's just space always for them, particularly when you're versing the Tigers. Um, and then their defensive spacing, and to be honest, they didn't have to defend much. Got a fun stat for you, but Cleary only tackled, I think he only made 10 tackles throughout the game. For a half, that's like nothing, right?
What was the run meters difference? It was something crazy.
No, I don't
I
even want to
don't.
think about it. I don't even want to know. But yeah, even still, like their defensive spacing is just unmatched. They're constantly holding square and sliding together, which is really frustrating to watch. And because they're doing all these things so well and so right, they're just constantly fatiguing teams. They patiently build up, repeat tackles and kick pressure, and they just always got yardage wins. I think their kick chase is the best in the comp by a country mile. It's just a brick wall that runs at you non-stop. It's insane, and that's what I mean when I say that footy can be a really simple game if you get those those key moments and key things in the game right, and they're just constantly doing the effort areas to perfection. And they've got this up and coming halfback named Nathan Cleary, who's relatively solid too.
He goes all right, eh?
Look, he does pretty well. I've got a few notes for him that I'll probably just DM him with, so he's continues to improve. But yeah, he goes all right.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that your mom was texting you, like whoever was scoring. My cousin came over after the game and she seen the score and she's like, "Oh fuck, who scored?" And I was like, "The question you should be asking was who didn't score."
Yeah, literally.
But
I think Ivan Cleary got on the score sheet there.
fucking Stephen Crichton scored too. um, I think you nailed it on the head pretty much, and I really liked one word you used to describe them was elite, and they've been elite for what is it, 6, 7 years now. They've just been the pinnacle, the team to beat. You know, everyone's trying to adapt to their model and sort of how they built that system. I think you even see with the Tigers, the Bulldogs, Parramatta. I think St. George are trying to do it now as well. You get the pathways right. You play one style of footy from first grade, reserve grade, Jersey Flag, SG Ball, Harold Matts. So each player that comes through the system, when they come to first grade, you know, it's not such a hard transition. They've they found the method. They found the method to success. And I guess the one thing that we can only bank on as rugby league fans is that it all comes crashing down once Ivan leaves. We can only hope. But yeah, I don't know. Do you reckon Peter Wallace can have the same sort of success?
Look, I've always had the theory that, like, obviously, yes, the coaching is elite. I mean, they, as I said, their effort plays are insane. But as I said, like, footy is a pretty simple game, and throughout the years, they've always focused and developed and leaned on players that are just athletically gifted. Sometimes clubs, they go for flashy players that can do some really cool things with the ball and stuff like that. But you miss those extra effort plays. Where they just constantly coming up time and time again, and even in the 78th minute. I mean, they're actually freaks. Like, these guys that are playing are
They couldn't even
fitness
let
monsters.
Makasini score, man.
Mate, 30-0, and they look like they're just putting, like, they're literally like in the grind still. It's ridiculous.
Bro, what was the score? It was 60-0, and I think Makasini tried to score, and Dylan Edwards is fucking pulling off defensive stops like they're 14-12.
Yeah. It's obviously what they really love, right? Like, that's the stuff
Yeah,
that you go into the coaches' meetings and they go, "Hey, this was the good thing about this week, not about the 68 fucking points that you put on the team. It was
yeah,
that there was
exactly.
no lazy defensive sets." And it's just like the standards that they set are just insane. And I think the standards as a team are incredible, but the individual standards too. Like, these guys are just so fit. Like, you never see one of them
Yeah,
gassed
it's
out.
crazy. It's
Yeah,
genuinely insane. They got to be
yeah,
tested or something.
I reckon. I reckon.
All right. Well, moving on to the worst team of the week. I think the Broncos taking out. Nah, it's the team on the receiving end of that 68-0 scoreline. The West Tigers. I mean, mate, I don't know about you, but I'm fucking sick of watching us get towed up by 60 at least like twice a season, bro. No matter what year it is, no matter who's coach, no matter who's playing, these results they just seem to fucking happen over and over and over again for us. I don't know why. I don't know whether it comes down to like past demons that come with the jersey, or did we get did we get punished or cursed after 2005? I'm not sure. I'm not sure, man. That was like, and you know, you can say, okay, we are missing some players, but that is not an excuse for a scoreline like that. No way. It was just, simple errors, simple drop balls. I think in the first 20 minutes alone, we had Taruva throw one of the worst offloads I've ever seen. Um, Bolle, he did drop the ball, but I think Appy did stitch him up a bit. It was a pretty shocking pass. Charlie Murray, I think he's looking at Jerome Luai. He's not even looking at the ball. Simple drop ball. And, we'll just describe them, Penrith. They're elite. And you cannot afford to turn over the ball in key areas of the field against an elite team like Penrith, which is what the Tigers did. And yeah, man, they paid for it.
Yep, 100%. And but the other thing is, like, of course, the errors stack up, and you are versing a really good team. But you still shouldn't be falling apart just that easily. Like
Yeah,
I think
100%.
we had three sets in a row at the beginning of the game, and we had three players in the tackle every single time, slowing down the ruck. Looked really good, and then straight after that, we made an error, and it looked like everyone just went, "No, fuck this. Whatever." We gave it our best shot for 5 minutes. It was ridiculous. Like it was such a bad effort. Like I, I
And
just
that's the key word, effort, man. It just looked like, after those first couple of tries, they just gave up. No one wanted to put in.
yeah.
And I think you nailed it about Penrith in terms of their strength and conditioning. And I think this game just shows how far apart the Tigers are from a team like Penrith. They're the benchmark, and the Tigers, they're trying to be the benchmark or at least get close there. And I think that game showed, yeah, they did have injuries, but we are still a long, long way off of performances like that, being that elite.
Mm.
And the disappointing thing for me was just it was like no one took control, you know? And I think, look, we'll have a discussion about him, but Jerome Luai, he was disappointing. He was very disappointing. He tried hard, but yeah,
I don't know. I think I agree. He had a shocker of a game, but it's really not the be all and end all to have someone you know take control. Because how do you control what happened? I mean, like from pretty much after those three sets, our middle defense was absolutely shocking. Like we were so slow getting back.
shout out Alex 12 for taking. Shout out Alex Seyfarth for taking out Alex 12 for a month.
Oh mate, like you know what? It's seriously showed like our A and B defenders weren't square. We looked super slow. We didn't have any line speed because they had such quick play of the balls, and we were just jogging back, trying to get back on side, and they were just punching through the middle. Like typically, when you see these massive blowouts, it's mostly the edges that are collapsing. But to be honest, it started in the middle. Like we
Yeah,
were really getting found out in the middle. Charlie Murray in
I was about to
particular,
say, man, they were targeting Charlie Murray and,
yeah,
and
and
exploiting
it's
his
smart.
weaknesses.
It's smart to do that. Like
Yeah,
he's a reserve grader for sure. Our systems aren't that great. Our defensive standards are not the same. So if you go at a weak link, like they've seen with Hope the last few weeks when he was playing, we just fold. Like this next man up mentality just isn't there. Um, and our defensive line loses trust pretty much immediately when we've got guys who aren't the 1 to 17 to start the year in that lineup. Like just oh, mate, it is so frustrating to watch. It fucking pisses me off.
you and me both, brother. Well, we'll move on to our play of the round. Then, yeah, I think hard one to pick this week. Yeah, it's the Iceman, the Chin Man, Nathan
A
Cleary,
chin,
the
big
man with
chin.
the chin, the goat, the greatest chin of all time. He's just he's elite. I don't know. Is there much more to say?
Look, I mean, I almost wanted to go different just because the whole Penrith squad was so good, but he
Yeah,
had an absolute blinder. Like he was sensational. Kicking game, really good. Like, you know, we were constantly turning, like, catching whilst our backs were turned, which is quite awkward. Or we were catching under pressure. They also kick, quite deliberately towards the centers who don't do as much reps as the wingers do in those sort of defensive, like defending the kicks and that sort of thing. And they've got elite leapers across the board, really. So, um, but it's just always pinpoint accuracy. Um, he's just methodological. Is that the word? Can't fucking
yeah.
speak. He's so good, mate. It's elite,
um,
and he's also great at just like freezing the defenders by always staying square. And I think every commentator sort of says it, but he's a run first half, and he's not really the best running half as such, but he's just always picks his moments. Like he always knows when to run or when to play the ball. He's just like a surgeon. It's fucking crazy.
yeah, I think that's actually a pretty accurate description of it. I think For I don't know if anyone watches soccer out there. You know what he reminds me of? Someone like Iniesta, where bro, he just every single game he controls the tempo. He dictates everything from start to finish. I
Mm,
feel like how he wants the game to unfold, he makes happen with ease. You know what I mean?
mm.
And yeah, I just wish one day the Tigers will become a team where opposition don't take players off early against. So, because
Be
what
nice.
you got a fucking 20-minute breather, 20-minute early spell.
I think it was 10 minutes, and I was watching because I didn't captain him on Supercoach, so I was stressing out. My opponent did, and I was like,
Yeah,
"Fuck me,
yeah, I captained him
why
on
am I
fantasy
watching
too.
this? Yeah, why am I watching this shit?" But he's honestly, it would be a dream player to coach. Like, you're up sort of 40-0, and he's still playing the percentage footy. Like, he just doesn't play scoreboard footy. It's just always constantly, knows exactly what to do. Like, if he needs to kick it to the corner, he's kicking it to the corner. If he needs a long kick, it's always a long kick. And there's always just a follow up plan with Penrith and him after doing these sort of things. And they just get through the game so well. You rarely see them making decisions that are bad. Like sometimes they make errors because it's a footy side, but their decision making off the back of him is just exceptional. He's so annoying.
I want to ask you something.
Mm.
Um, do you think his inability to sort of dominate Origin hinders his legacy as a player now?
No, because I don't really know what people mean by dominate Origin. Like typically when he's got good go forward, he's had really good games, and then when he doesn't, he just hasn't had that great games because he's a halfback, and you need the go forward, and Origin's quite a 50-50 game, so it's harder for halves to really step up in those moments. And he's not a big player guy like we're talking about. He gets through sets, he makes the right decisions, he tries to just play sort of pressure football where he just builds pressure on his opposition. And I think in Origin it's harder to do that because you've got elite players everywhere. Um, I honestly thought that in game one, for example, and in the first half, despite most people saying he was absolutely shit, I thought he did what he could. Like I don't think that there was much more he could do. Sometimes you just got really bad game plans, and or you got players around you that aren't really doing the right thing. Like he was always constantly having to kick on the right edge, and it was always the short side. And he had Ethan Strange, who just obviously was not going to take those long kicks. So there's so much pressure on him, and he was still putting them in the right positions. Like he still was kicking where he had to, but people were saying, "Oh, he's not doing well. He's not kicking well." It's like, well, there's not really much more you can do. So I mean, personally, I don't think so. I think if you watch him week in week out at NRL level, he's so good. I think it would probably get to his head a little bit though.
Hmm. I don't know. I kind of disagree a bit in terms of his performance in game one. I think for the first say 50 minutes, 60 minutes, I thought Sam Walker outplayed him pretty comfortably. I thought he didn't really try and add. I don't know if it's that's just a game plan thing or maybe because yeah, like New South Wales were getting dominated, but he didn't really have much variation to his game. He didn't really try and kick early or try and swing momentum with his kicks, which we know he's capable of doing in clubland. Um, yeah, I don't know, man. I think clubland, he's probably a big call, but maybe like the greatest player of all time, just because of what he's achieved and he's been successful for such a long time. I think all he needs to do is just win a Dally M.
Mm.
But I don't know. I think for me personally, till I can see him, win. I could be wrong. Actually, correct me. Has he won a player of the series for the Blues?
I don't think so. I think he's won man of the matches though for sure, but I don't think he's
See,
won
yeah, okay.
a
So
series.
till I see like him win a player of the series, the Wally Lewis medal, or like I don't know that until that happens, I wouldn't put him on the sort of pedestal of like Johns and your Thurstons and Cronks and that sort of stuff. To be honest, but
But I never saw them like really dominate Origin that much though. I don't know. I mean, obviously, I didn't really grow up with Johns, watching him week in, week out, so it's a little bit harder to say. But Cronks and like Thurston's, they played well, but they didn't really dominate. Like Origin is such a if to dominate a game, it's such like a fullback that does it because they're always on the back of your set plays, and they're usually the athletic guys that break the game open, sort of thing. Every game plan typically in an Origin arena is your halves have to just do the sort of the organizing and the kicking, and like I think he, as I said, I think he just had too much responsibility at times. Like with Sam Walker, Munster was the one that was taking the first few kicks. I think he took the first 3 kicks, which meant that the next time that Sam Walker was ready to kick, the first time, the Blues were loaded up on Munster's side, ready to give him some kick pressure. And then I went to Sam Walker's side. Cleary just does not have that. And then the other thing was we were just constantly kicking, in my opinion, to the wrong side of the field. Also not his fault. He's been told to stay on that right side and kick. And to be honest, from what I could see, I think that we were really trying to get to our 5th tackles. I agree that he should have been kicking earlier, but again, I don't think it's his fault. I think it's more so that Laurie Daly's just didn't have a good game plan. But I don't know. I think he's just such an elite player. He does so much stuff week in, week out that I'm sort of not here for the discussion around Origin and him not stepping up, sort of thing.
Nathan Cleary was the obvious player of the round, and the audience did agree. But I do want to give actually a special mention to Selwyn Cobbo. I think Christian Wolf, he's got him playing some really good footy, and I thought on the weekend he had a terrific game, man. And I got his stats here. So he scored 2 tries, a line break, 9 tackle busts, and he ran for 320 meters. So shout out to young Selwyn Cobbo, man, playing some good footy at the moment. Just hopefully he has a stinker next Wednesday.
I thought he had a really good Origin game too, to
Yeah,
be
he
honest.
did. He was gunning at Origin, bro.
Which I was surprised by. I think he's a bit of a lazy footballer the past few years, and as he said, well, Wolves sort of got him up and going. I don't know what he's said to him or said, but he's got him playing some good footy, as he said.
And I think it just goes to show sometimes for a player, just confidence is the most important thing, eh? Because we've always seen glimpses, but I feel like this season, especially the last, say, month or two of footy, he's really starting to put it together and become like the complete package.
You sometimes forget just how young these guys are, and
Yeah, exactly, man.
I think typically speaking, like you come through the grades and your whole personality is around dominating the juniors and being a good footy player. And if you start putting a few bad performances together, it probably gets to your head quite a bit.
Well, I've seen this headline after the game, and for those not listening on YouTube, it's a Coach Sports photo. It says West Tigers combined score since Jerome Luai signed with PNG. 66 points scored, 226 points conceding. I know what they're trying to say, but I think a lot more context needs to be provided. I mean, when you are getting pumped the way we're getting pumped, it's completely unfair to sort of label that blame on the single player. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think what I would definitely highlight is that those numbers. I think that's from the Raiders game, right? That was when the Raiders game was, and then we went into the Sharks game. Were we up at halftime? I think so. So decent margin, but we lost Adam Dewey, and when you look in the huddles and stuff like that, he's the one that's really going at him.
Yeah.
And he's always sort of got something to say, and even in defense, like he's quite chirpy. So is Luai, but maybe they just miss that extra guy that's really motivating and also obviously controlling the game. Like it's certainly something that's quite important in footy. What I will say though is that this is a guy who came here and said that he would change the club, turn the club around, put it all on his shoulders, all the responsibility on his shoulders, that sort of thing. And I think when times get tough, he doesn't really do it. Like, I don't know. I just don't see him like really standing up when we're getting absolutely flogged or anything like that. And you usually do that with good defensive plays or putting your body on the line and that sort of stuff. I don't know. I just think sometimes this guy's a little bit just chat shit, to be honest. Like, I like that he's like putting it out in the air. Like, if you say it and you believe it, it comes true. Sort of, Conor McGregor rubbish. But like, he hasn't really like. I don't know. I don't know. It's a bit sensationalist, this sort of like view, but at the same time, like, there is some grounds on it that he could have sort of checked out a little bit.
I disagree, to be honest. To say that
Well,
he's checked out, I don't know. Did he check out his last year at Penrith? I mean, you could argue that the last year at Penrith was the best season of his career, and he still has another year and a half left at the Tigers. I mean, I was pretty frustrated with his performance after Sunday, but I'm seeing like a lot of chat online that Jerome Luai is checked out. Jerome Luai is not having to go. That's it. He doesn't care. He's got him paid. I couldn't completely disagree. Sorry, I couldn't disagree more. When you watch Luai for the Tigers, and you can be honest with me, do you feel like he's not having to go?
I agree that he's 100% having a go. I think he's just a bit overrated. Like, he and
That is
it's
that's
honest.
that's a fair point.
It's driven by him. Like, he's the guy that's in there always saying like he's gonna do this, he's gonna do that, and you kind of sit back and you go, well, on the field, what have you really really done for the Tigers? And he's put some great performances together. He's a top player. Like, he really is a top player. He's one of the best sixers in the comp. But $1.2 million, always in the media saying that you're the guy. I don't know. I just think sometimes it's just a bit much from him.
Yeah, look, and like I said, I did say he was poor earlier, but you know, I just want to ask you some questions, man. At Penrith, who was his main halves partner, would you say?
Well, Cleary.
Yeah, and they played together quite a bit, right?
Yep.
In his 18 months at the Tigers so far, can you name me how many halves partners he's had?
Um, it's a great
Exactly.
question.
See, the fact that you have to think about it pretty much makes my point, right? There
But
is There's
I
no
don't know.
continuity, bro. There's no combinations being built. Like for the first, what was it, 10 to 12 weeks last year, it was Galvin. Then it was Heath Mason. Then it was Latu for a couple games. Then it was Adam Dwayhe. Adam Dwayhe gets injured. It's Latu again for a couple games. This season, I think him and Dwayhe, they played 3 games together or 4 games together. He's spent a whole preseason training with Adam Dwayhe. He spent a whole preseason training with Samuela Fainu on the outside of his edge. He spent a whole preseason training with Taylor May as his left center. He's spent the whole preseason training with Hamasi Makasini as his left wing. How many games has he actually played with a fully fit and healthy team?
Look,
Like these things matter, bro. And I understand, yeah, he's claimed that he's the guy, he's claimed that he's Batman, he's the highest earner on the team. But bro, at the end of the day, like you need consistency in the team. You need continuity, bro. Every week his combinations are changing. Like one week it's fucking this last week it's Maverick Geyer. The week before it's Sione Fainu. The week before that it's Ethan Roberts, man. Like the guy can't perform miracles, bro.
I think it's just more frustrating that he's come into the club and he's kind of alluded to being like our Nathan Cleary, like the number one guy. He came to play halfback. And if you look at those top halves, there's not really much room for excuses, particularly Nathan Cleary. Like, he's always there's always injuries in a club. And I agree that combinations are incredibly tough. And I think the Galvin thing is 100%. Like, yeah, that's certainly something that you go, well, it 100% made a difference. But you got a guy who has said that he's going to be the number one man, and he's, you know, just kind of said that he's going to step up and be a top half. and he was being outperformed by Adam Dewey in his own game of running. Like Dewey was literally just a better runner of the football. Um, and I'm not saying that Luai is not a great player, but I just question whether he really is like the marquee guy. Like, should he really be going to clubs and being the marquee guy? I don't know. From a culture perspective, maybe. Like, he's obviously he loves to win. He's got a lot of confidence, but I
And he's
just
proven he is a winner.
but so is but then like you just say so is Jack Cogger, and I know that that's obviously a bit different, but he hasn't really won once he stepped out of that Panthers incredible system.
Well, he's played in, multiple origins. He won a series without Nathan Cleary as his halfback, where he actually broke the game open and set up the try to for New South Wales to take the lead. He took Samoa to a World Cup final as the halfback. Like, man, I just think he struggled and he needs to be better 100%, 110%. He needs to be better. But there are mitigating factors, bro. Like there is no,
Mm.
like you said, combinations are important. And currently for him, there's no combinations being built. Like, man, I look, that second half against Canberra, him and Adam Dwayhe, bro, they linked up beautifully. They linked up beautifully. And that was probably, we were down at halftime. That's probably like the best second half performance that I've seen us play in a while. They linked up beautifully. That first try that the way he scored against the Sharks. What was that from? That was from Luai digging into the line and creating space for Dewey on his outside. And we saw last weekend against Canterbury, bro. He that try that Gerard Skelton scored, the first try. He used a bit of footwork and he created space for Makasini. All Makasini had to do was draw in the center, which he did beautifully. He put Kaipi's paw, he fed him that short ball and had Buller on his outside for the offload. That was all Jerome. That was through the work of Jerome. So this guy, he's trying, he's doing well in my opinion. On Sunday he was poor. And I thought Sunday was probably his worst game from like a leadership and performance perspective. I mean, that pass that he threw was shocking. There's no excuses for that, especially for a senior player on the team. But I do think that he's copying unfair treatment. Look, obviously it comes with the territory and the price tag. Like he said he's the man, and I'm sure he's fully aware of, it's the highs and lows of rugby league. This is what
Mm.
comes with being the marquee guy. But I just think the treatment that he's copying from our own fans and from the rugby league media in general, it's a bit harsh. It's a
I
bit
think
harsh.
you're allowed to criticize his footy performance and
Yeah,
that sort of thing.
100%.
If you're DMing a bloke like that, you should just fucking kick your own teeth like you're a goose if you're DMing people. But I kind of agree with you in some respects of like I don't know really, you know, against Penrith what more he can do. Like everyone just had a really bad game, and that pass I don't even really care too much because he was just trying to make something happen and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And again, I think he's an elite 5'8". But my point here is that you're paying this guy to 1.2 million, and he's really a secondary player. Like you talked about when him and Dewey are playing together, he he looks great, and I agree. But it's because Dewey's getting the ball more, and Luai doesn't have to burden the responsibilities of controlling an entire team. Like his best qualities are being on the short edge where Penrith were setting up with their second rower digging into the line or something like that. And then he's got two or three players on his short edge that he's organising. And he had a bloke like Kickow who was shooting into the line and dragging two defenders into him. And he was constantly creating chances as a result of that. But his best football comes when he is second fiddle. And that's why I question him being the number one guy, especially considering that's all he sort of was saying last year and this year that he's going to take us to new heights. I just don't really 100% agree with that. Like, I think that everything else in the team has to be working really well for him to be playing well. And when it is all clicking, he's a sensational player to watch. But if it's not, like on the weekend, he's not really the guy to dig you out and get you out of those holes.
That's fair enough. Well, look, it's nice to know that the Tigers aren't the only club in crisis. um, we've got the results of the here for the last 5 games of the reigning premiers, the Broncos. So, 38-24 loss to the Roosters, a 32-4 loss to the to the Manly, sorry. A 42-12 loss to the Warriors at Magic Round. And I think these last two are especially bad. We got a 26-30 loss to the Dragons, who've got their only win of the season against the Broncos. And we got a 23-28 loss against the Titans on the weekend. What do you think's gone wrong, really?
If I were to sum up the number one thing that I think that goes wrong in that team, because you know that across the board they've got some really talented players. I think that their spine wants different games every single week. Like Walsh wants just quick, fast play. He wants to attack constantly. Like early in the sets, he wants to be sweeping. He wants shape early, no matter where they are on the field, which is very much like a fucking Walters sort of game plan. He's still almost stuck in that regard. Reynolds then wants to control the game through kicking and just building into the game a little bit Penrith like. And then Mann wants a lot of broken play. He wants short side attack. Blah blah blah. He wants to be in a car, sort of driving through defenders. And like I don't think that nothing's wrong with it. It's just that they're conflicting. Like they just play very conflicting styles, and they just all look so disjointed as a result. So they can't really build into games at the minute. And when you can't build into games, particularly in a sort of the Landy's ball era where there's a lot of set restarts and things can really start going wrong if you're not building momentum, you start to lose, and I think that's what they're seeing.
I think the biggest thing for me is, and I'm just having a look quickly to double check, I don't think Adam Reynolds and Reece Walsh work well together. I think they're both very ball dominant players and they both need the ball in their hands pretty much all of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And when they're paired together, I don't know if they're just clashing or they sort of try and adapt their natural games to try and sort of fit in the other. But when they play together, it just doesn't seem to work. And I think everyone can pretty much recognize that the Broncos, they have way too much talent in this team to be playing this bad. I don't know. Do you think it's an ego problem because this sort of dip has seemed to happen under Madge and Walters? So I don't know. The media, they're going pretty hard at Madge, but this seems to be sort of a trend. I don't know if they have like this sort of rock star mentality because we've seen it 2 years in 2024 after they played the grand final in 2023 and obviously lost to some Nathan Cleary brilliance. I don't. Yeah, they fell off. They fell away. They started really well. They beat the Panthers in the opening round. I'm pretty sure, and everyone thought, yeah, it's gonna be Penrith and Broncos again, but they fell away, and they had also another brilliant start to the year this year, and they got some really good wins without key players. They obviously, beat us in a very close game at Campbelltown without Haas, no, Haas played, but he got injured, sorry. Without Walsh, without a few key guys. And yeah, I don't know. Do you think is it an ego problem? Is it a coaching problem?
I think it's like a little bit of both. As I not even really ego. I just think it's the way that Walsh plays footy is that he just always wants to be attacking and he's just always on. Like he's like that kid with just ADHD in the back of your classroom that just doesn't fucking stop throwing shit. Like just settle
That was
down,
you,
mate.
isn't
No, I'm cool, calm, collected. Like you just, honestly, if I was Madge, I'd be saying to him, "Look, you're allowed to touch the ball like twice in the set,
Walsh.
and yeah, and if we're in our own half, unless we're like really far behind in the game, or unless Reynolds has ID'd something, you are not touching the ball on the back
Yeah, but
of
see, I don't know. Do
sweeps.
you want to restrict a player like that?
A little
Like, I
bit, yeah,
feel like.
because 100%.
Sorry, go on.
100% you would restrict a player. Like you don't see guys like Teddy and Ponga touching the ball like four fucking times and just running sideways nonstop. Like they pick their moments, and obviously they play very different. So the best probably person to look at is Ponga, because they're a bit more comparable. But like they're setting up, they're building into the set to have him attack probably two times in a set, and it's otherwise it becomes too predictable. There's it's so easy to follow the player because you just know where it's going to go. Ponga is really great at picking his moments. He also gets a little bit more involved in the ruck, which I don't think Walsh does enough at all. He's a bit of like a pretty boy where he just doesn't want to get his hands dirty sometimes. But yeah.
See, I don't know, because I don't know, if I was coaching Walsh, I would just tell him to, go out there and be yourself and play your footy. Like, I don't know if this is sort of a good comparison, but it sort of maybe reminds me of Benji Marshall, where it was like, okay, sometimes Benji Marshall, he was easily as capable of fucking throwing a cutout ball into the stands as he was stepping five players and throwing a flick pass to set up a try. You know what I mean? But I think just with a player like Reece Walsh, I think you just have to take the good with the bad. And we saw last year in last year's final series. I don't know about you, but me personally, I think that was probably the best finals series I've ever seen individually from a player. I think he just, he put the Broncos on his back and he just took them all the way. He took them all the way to the title. And it's like this guy, he's going to be your franchise player for the next 10 years. Obviously, with Reynolds retiring, with Haas leaving, he's the guy. So I don't know. Do you really want to sort of restrict the way he plays?
I don't think it's like personally, I don't think you restrict his style of footy. I think you restrict how often he's doing it because
Yeah.
you're saying that you take the good with the bad. Well, there's a lot of bad happening at the minute, and they're honestly putting pressure on themselves because they're not getting things right. They're not building into games. They're not completing sets properly, and so therefore the opposition are just they're getting the ball turned over in really good spots that they are happy with, and as a result, they're just falling apart. Like I think, yes, defensive attitude is certainly questionable, considering how many points they're conceding. But I think it's on. I think it's because they're not playing games properly. Like they're really trying to play winning football every single set, every single game. It's like, mate, just relax a little bit. Like just relax, build into the game. Maybe it's a timing thing where it's like, let's just complete our sets for the first 20 minutes, and then you can have a few attacks. But he's touching the ball too much. Not even that. He can touch the ball a lot, but he can't be attacking so much because
Yeah.
like if you get it
And then to
wrong,
be
which
effective touches is what you're saying.
yeah, exactly. That's
Yeah.
why I think get him involved more in the middle, particularly off the back of Payne Haas and Willison, who's been really good for them. Like their forwards have had some go forward. It's just that they're not letting the forwards like dominate games and dictate games because they're just always trying to play out the back.
Yeah. I think Ezra Mann's been pretty disappointing too. I thought last year he bounced back pretty well after everything that happened, all the dramas in the preseason. I thought he was probably one of their best in the grand final last year, but I think he's really been struggling this year. And it feels like they're really struggling to sort of find a partner for Adam Reynolds. Um, we've seen Madge start Tom Duffy on the weekend. Then Ezra came on after Duffy copped the HIA. He sort of provided a bit of spark, took him off. Broncos sort of went back into their shell, and then he brought him back on. And then Ezra, he has a 9-on-2 overlap, and then dummies and grubbers. And oh man, that's like one of the worst plays I've ever seen. I don't know if I was mad in the fucking shed after, I wouldn't have been able to control myself.
Yeah, it was
But
pretty bad.
yeah, their halves have been pretty poor, other than Reynolds. Reynolds has been good, but they sort of they just haven't found the right sort of partner for Reynolds. Do you think that sometimes because they have so many individually good players that the players sort of instead of working as a team, they'll just rely on sort of ind- individual brilliance from a player. Like maybe they'll take a back seat and think, oh, here, Walsh will get us out of this one, or Renault will get us out of this one, or Haas will get us out of this one. Do you think that happens?
I don't know if it's that. I just think that they're such like flashy players that they just don't get into the grind of games, and they like individually. I mean,
Yeah,
beyond just the team, like they're not sort of they're not the guys that are leading line speed and that sort of thing. I think one of their best players, sneakily, and one of their most important players is Jordan Ricky because he's not the flashiest player. He's not the greatest ball runner, although he's improving, but he's just a really good defender and he just runs so hard on kick chases. And it's so important to teams to have players like that. Sometimes they've just got guys who, are the flashy plays, for example, Ezra Mam, and so, as a result, the other side of the ball, which is just as important, if not more important, sometimes I feel,
yeah.
in rugby league, it sort of takes a step to the side. Like it's not as important to them.
And just on Walsh, like what you were saying before, I think as he because it's easy to forget that Reece Walsh is still only 23.
Mm.
So I think as he gets older, he gets more experienced. I think he'll sort of iron out those deficiencies that you were saying. But we've had some signing news over the last week. So today it got announced that Trey Fuller's extended with the Dolphins for another season. I thought he rejected a fat bag from the UK to stay in Redcliffe, so must really like it there. Sharks have re-signed Kennedy for another year. It feels like these two are in a toxic relationship because all year for the past 3 years, I've heard about Will Kennedy moving on. The Sharks, they're prioritizing some junior, and then every year they seem to end up re-signing the bloke. uh,
It's a
Another
salary cap
two,
problem, I reckon.
you reckon?
Yeah, well, they got so much money tied up in Hines and Trindle, and Brayley as well, so they have to then spend less on their fullback, and so they feel like going out to market, they're not going to get someone as good as him that you can pay probably like 400K on.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's like the last couple of years you've heard about this Liam Morrison and Cade Dykes. They're the next guys for them now. Cade Dykes is at the Bulldogs, I think it is, but I don't know. Are they just too scared to pull the trigger? Because it seems like, um, yeah, like they did with Ramian, they have Michael Gabriel sitting there. Ramian's obviously signed for the Cowboys, but then they tried to sign Jake Averillo too. Obviously, we'll get to later. Signed a 4-year deal with the Tigers, but they tried to sign Jake Averillo. I don't know. It seems like Sharks sometimes they just get sort of scared to pull the trigger on the young blokes. I don't know. What do you reckon?
I think the guys that were in their juniors just probably weren't as good as Kennedy, even though he's not an elite or he's not even an above average fullback. Like he's just an average fullback. I just think that there's no one at the club that's better, and
Yeah.
because of the way that their cap is built out, it's kind of just like they get stuck in this cycle of keeping him.
Well, we got Anari Tuwala here re-signing with the Bulldogs till the end of 2028. I think that's a very good re-signing. To be honest, he's probably been their best back. And this one I really like. Fucking huge for the Knights. Dylan Lucas re-signing till the end of 2030. I think that's huge, to be honest.
Yeah, I love this guy. I honestly, I like he's probably top three favorite non-Tigers players in the comp for me. He's
Really?
just I fucking love Dylan Lucas.
Yeah, he's a jet, man. He's a jet.
He's so good. He's just such a goer. Like you chuck him in any position, and the bloke just has a crack, which is a lost art sometimes.
And as I alluded to here, it's not officially reported, but Jake Averillo signed a 4-year deal with the Tigers worth about 2.75 million. I don't know. What do you think, man? I'm thinking just a bit overs.
A bit overs unless it's not ratchet clauses, and I think the cap goes up to 14 million at some point. So it's 100% like what a decent center is going to be on.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm sure that they're doing some numbers, crunching numbers back at HQ, and making sure that they're not overpaying him. We're desperate for quality
Not like the
outside
Tigers to
backs.
overpay someone, right?
Look, besides Luai, I think we've done pretty well with our cap management,
Yeah.
and even then, he was necessary in getting other guys here. So
I mean, I
I
think
think,
Jareen Bull is a bit overpaid. I don't know about you.
well, let's not go there. But fuck you. But yes, probably a little
I'm just
bit.
joking for the record. For the record.
Oh, I would
Joking.
probably agree. Like, on current form, but you got a guy who else in the market are you going to get? It's worth it for us. Is always my argument.
Oh no, I
And
agree. I was just joking. Bull is 100% worth it, man. The guy's been our
it,
best player the last 2 weeks.
well, don't joke about Buller, all right? Don't
Sorry,
fucking
Heat
do
Nation fan club.
that. No, I love it. I think we need speed. He's also something that probably hasn't been touched on as much is that whilst he can also play center and really well, he can also cover our fullback position, which is huge for us
Yeah.
because Buller does have a bit of tendency to get injured. Um, and the options that we've currently got just aren't up to par. Whereas he's now, a relatively solid backup fullback, which is good.
Yeah, pretty exciting. Like he adds some much needed speed to our back line, and I can't wait for next season. I assume he'll be playing right center. If
Mm.
we get Kai Pearce Paul through to some space and he's hanging off of Kai Pearce Paul's hip, man, it's exciting. Has potential to be very dangerous.
Yeah.
Him and
Oh well,
Buller in open
Buller's been
field.
feasting off it, right? Those offloads this year.
Yeah, exactly,
Mm.
exactly. Well, got the big dance, New South Wales with the potential to win it next Wednesday. We got some team changes for both teams. So I'll start off with the Maroons. We got Kalen Ponga at fullback, Cobo and Fafita on the wings, Toya and Hamaso centers, Munster and Walker in the halves, Flegler Tino starting props, Harry Grant starting hooker, Britton Nakoro and Kurt Capewell starting edges, Ruben Cotter lock, Max Plath, Lindsay Collins, debutant Kulikefu Funafuiaki on the bench. I fucking nailed that. Trent Liero, Reese Walsh, and Murray Taulungi to fill out the 19. And then Helam Lukey as the 20th man. Give us your thoughts.
First thought is it Erin Molan? She needs to take some lessons from you on how to pronounce Islander names. Some great stuff from you there, mate. I think it's obviously the right call. I think that their game plan was really good to start game one. They were absolutely dominating us. So to name a relatively same lineup makes sense. Reece Walsh in there is a little bit, surprising just because of his form being not great, but he is a game breaker. And if the choice is between Reece Walsh or Ezra Mam, I'm choosing Reece Walsh every single day of the week.
For sure.
I think you'll see a lot of Britton Nickera, running hard unders at Mitchell Moses. And he's starting to get into form. He's been absolutely horrible to start the year, but slowly building. Had a really good game on the weekend, so kind of concerned that he's just going
It's
to
the
peak at the
Dragons,
right time. Oh, yeah, it's true, but even still, like he looked like he had a little bit more intent.
Yeah.
Trindle was really getting him involved in the game, whereas Hines hasn't been. So be interesting to see there. I think Kirk Capewell was someone that struggled a little bit just laterally last game. So certainly interesting to see what we do there with him.
Yeah. To be honest, I still can't believe how Helam Lukey can't get into this team.
Mm, I
The
agree.
guy's been a fucking jet for the cows, and he could easily chuck him at starting over Britton Nakora. He could easily, fill a role off the bench a lot better than Trent Liero. He's been rubbish this season. Other than that, yeah, it's a relatively unchanged lineup for the Maroons. I was pretty surprised that Funafuiaki wasn't there from game one, but Obviously, the injury to Pat Carrigan changes things. Um,
Huge out for me.
yeah,
I think he's
massive.
like he defensively is so good at organising. Really quick play of the balls, which were really helpful for Grant when he came on. So I think they lose a lot without him there.
And I don't know about you, but the Reece Walsh selection scares me.
Well, yeah, I mean, like he's got it in him. Every single week, he looks like he could break the game open. It's just that sometimes he doesn't. So it's certainly scary. Like,
And
he's
that's what I
got it
mean.
in him.
Origin, there's a lot of fatigue. If you chuck on
Mhm.
Reece Walsh with 20, 25 minutes to go, man, he could be very, very dangerous.
Yep.
Well, we got the Blues here. James Tedesco at fullback, Brian To'o and Tolu Cole on the wings, Casey Maguire and Katoni Staggs in centres, Mitchell Moses and Cleary in the halves, Payne Haas and Mitchell Barnett as starting props, Reese Robson, Hooker, Hudson Young and Dylan Lucas as the second rowers, Isaiah Yo starting lock, Cameron Murray, Victor Radley, Adam Fanor Blake, Api Coruscant, Ethan Strange, Mark Nwanganita Wase, fucking go me tonight. Haumole and Haumole Alakawatsi as the 20th man. What did you think of the lineup that Daily revealed?
Um, I think the first thing for me, and I know a lot of people disagreed with this, but I think that Moses being in there just changes the entire kicking map for the Blues. Finally, now we've got left and right side kickers, which means that we can target Jojo Fafita a lot more on those big kicks, and it's just super important because now the kick chase, oh sorry, the kick pressure is not going to be as heavy as it was on Cleary. Like he was really trying his absolute hardest, but as I said, he didn't have the support that was needed. A little bit harsh on Strange just because he was so good ball running, but
Yeah.
similar
I
to
think
sort
it's
of
very harsh, to be honest.
yeah, but similar to Walsh, like you can bring him on, if the game's not going well for you, or if there's fatigue. Like he only started building into the game once there was fatigue. I think early on he was doing his job, which is fine, but you'd rather someone else that can kick and kick really well, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Um, and I think the one thing that I was getting so frustrated over. I think you and I talked about it, and something that I ID'd was we needed to kick to JoJo's side because it meant that Sam Walker had to turn back and organise the exits for them.
Yeah.
We didn't, and so then he was therefore able to jog back and then set up the shape, and that's why he was building into the game really nicely. Like we just weren't overloading him cognitively. So I was getting frustrated on that. So I really hope that we do kick to that side a little bit more. Haas is huge. I I think again a controversial take, but I think that it's right to start Barnett with Haas because he's just like the defensive guy. Um, I think that having Adam Fanor Blake on the bench to come off is really important for our leg speed and leg drive against the starting to tire defenders. Hopefully, that means that we get 3 or 4 men in the tackle. Super important for attacking later on. But Haas, fuck, he's an absolute weapon. Like pound for pound, could be the best player in the NRL. So I expect him to win first contact, and that's both in attack and defense, and really important in defense because Grant had a lot of room to run and to cause havoc around the middle. So I think he shores that up a fair bit.
Yeah. I don't know. If you guys listened to the podcast last week, you would have heard me and Jack. We are going to, pretty honest discussion about Ethan Strange and Mitchell Moses. I'm firmly in that start Ethan Strange camp. I just don't see how we can use Origin as a way for, Mitchell Moses hasn't played in almost a month, right? So I don't understand how we could use a big game like Origin, especially when we won the first game, for Mitchell Moses to sort of test out his hamstring and sort of get into match fitness. I don't know. I just don't think Origin is the sort of right arena to do that. I think how Molle is incredibly unlucky to be dropped. I understand Dylan Lucas is in great form, and to be honest, for me personally, there was no reason why you couldn't have him on the bench. I think Cal Mole has been the form back rower of the comp. Not just that, he's a specialist right-sided back rower. So we have
Mm.
two specialist left edges in Hudson Young and Dylan Lucas, and obviously, the best players they can adapt, right? But yeah, I just think how Mole was, incredibly unlucky to miss out. I mean, there's no reason for me why he couldn't have been picked on the bench.
Where
Um,
who would you replace him for?
I would have personally replaced him for Barnett, to be honest.
So then who would start? So then Adam Blake starts. That means we don't have a prop on the
No,
bench.
I'd start Yo at prop and then
Mm.
put Cameron Murray at lock.
Yeah, obviously they don't want to do that. Look, yeah, I agree that I would have had him on the bench personally. It just seems like their game plan is that they don't have space for an edge on the bench because they've got the dual middle slash edges of Murray and Radley, which honestly did work for us, to be
Yeah,
fair.
Radley did surprise me a lot, to be honest. He played
Mm.
well.
So, and if you need a back rower to play 80 at the origin pace, I think that Dylan Lucas is probably a better choice than Olakawatu. But wouldn't it be nice to chuck Olakawatu on for 50 minutes? It'd be pretty
That's what I mean.
scary.
And he was very threatening with the ball in Origin.
Yeah, and
Like, yeah,
physically
he was
showed up in
physically
defense.
imposing. Physically imposing. He did have a couple of errors, but he wasn't the only one.
Yeah.
I would have had Casey McLean on the wing and Cool out in the centers. I think Casey McLean's much better under the high ball, under Cooler, and I think Cooler, give him a bit of space in the centers, and we've all seen what he can do. But
Mhm.
yeah, I'm honestly not too sure about Moses starting. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, like I said, you need the second kick option. Like it's just so important. The
Yeah,
reason why we were losing was because we could not compete on field position.
yeah,
Um, and it was of two reasons. The first one was that they were constantly kicking in behind Toto, which meant that he had to turn, he had to sprint back because he wasn't prepared for it, and then he was carrying really tired, and so that's how they were disrupting our yardage early on in sets, and as a result, they were winning the field position. And the second reason was that they also had an easy target, which was Cleary, because they knew that Ethan Strange was not going to be doing the long kicking. So you had Cleary kicking within his half constantly, and they would just get building and building into the game. We really need to ID that. So those 2 points need to be addressed. We've got to be ready for the early kicks, which means that Teddy has to be incredibly switched on. And also, we need to be making sure that we're targeting Sam Walker and Munster really hard out of the line on those fourth tackles if they're calling for the ball. And then second is we need those two kick options, and we need to be really mixing it up a lot between Moses and Cleary.
jeez, save some for next Tuesday, mate.
I got a few thoughts.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I just think it's a massive risk. Moses hasn't played any footy for almost a month now, man. So he's gone
Yeah,
a month without footy and chucking him straight into Origin. I don't know. I'm not a fan.
he's he's a fit guy though. Like he built his game on being quite a fit person. So I don't think that it's necessarily going to be a struggle in terms of fitness, in my opinion. However,
Yeah.
game fitness and just running and training is different. But
It's
I
about like, having a when a player comes back from injury, right, normally they need like a game or two to sort of get back up to speed and have their bodies adjust. And I don't know if Origin is the right environment for a player to do that. Especially, yeah, I don't know.
yeah, I mean defensively, I 100% agree. It's more important. I think game speed he'll be okay with, but the contact and that sort of stuff, and just even the cues, like the defensive cues, if you're not doing it week in week out, you can sometimes sort of forget, or your body's not just naturally doing it. So it's a fair point. It'll be a wait and see. We've got Strange on the bench, so I hope Loz isn't isn't too timid in just making a change if Moses is definitely off pace. But I personally like that we've got 2 kickers.
Just on Moses, if you were a Para fan, bro, you'd be fucking fuming. Like he always seems to manage to try and get up for Origin, but like he could have easily. I feel like if Moses plays on Monday, Para win. But like,
Yeah,
just imagine you're a Para fan, bro. You're seeing this guy try his hardest to get up for the Blues, and then he barely plays when Para pays fucking $1.3 million wage. He struggles to get up for him.
yeah, he's got some injury problems for sure. Well, that's the thing with Origin is, it's like the pinnacle of the game. Players, they just want to be there. And
Like he doesn't want to be
considering,
there for
yeah, well, fuck Barrow. Who wants to go there anyway? So,
Para.
like, I don't blame this guy at all.
We've got some audience questions, not many this week. Not sure how serious these two are. Now, number one is serious. I'm not sure about number two, but number one is Carraz or Tracy better at fullback for the doggies moving forward?
I think immediately, like in the short term, I'd be having Karaz. Simple, just
Yeah,
simplifies the
I
game
agree.
plan. Really
I
good runner of the ball, but long term, you can't have him there. And I think that part of the problem is that Galvin is not a first receiver. He just can't dig into the line and play at the back. That's why he goes short so much. I know the joke around, sort of the league is that he's just a short ball specialist. And that's true because I don't think he actually backs himself to make the passes out wide. Um, and the other thing is that Tracy's positioning is not great, but he just doesn't seem to ever want to make those passes. You'd look at him and I don't know. I just feel like he doesn't. Maybe he doesn't have the hip rotation, or he doesn't feel like he's accurate enough with the ball, or I'm not sure what it is. But then you go on that left edge, and Burton's always playing out the back. Maybe because he's passing from right to left, so it's a bit more natural for him. And Tracy gets the ball a lot more, and they look a bit more threatening on that left edge, in my opinion, in terms of shape. On the right edge, they've just got probably better players, and so that's why they can sort of balance it out. But if they had some really good shape and ball playing on that right edge that Galvin probably misses, I think that they would be a far better team just because of the players and the caliber of players that they got on that right edge. Um, so I think in the short term, I would be still playing Carraz there just because he sort of straightens up their attack and he's just a really good athlete.
Yeah, I'm with you to be honest. I'd be playing Carraz over Tracy too. I think Carraz offers a lot more, with what the Bulldogs are struggling with at the moment, which is attack.
Mm.
Um, Especially on sweep plays. Tracy, he's not really threatening, whereas, if you give a bit of Carraz a bit of space, he's a great tackle buster. So he can easily beat a couple blokes and get to the try line, or beat a couple blokes and, give an offload to his outside men. So, and Carraz is actually a bit of a decent ball player, believe it or not. So, I mean,
I agree.
he was a half in his junior days. So, yeah, he certainly
Good
knows what he's
insight.
doing.
Good insight.
Um, number two. How close was the Tigers versus Panthers game? Could we get an in-depth analysis of the Tigers' performance? Well, I think we pretty much did an analysis, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, look, I've got 2 points to make here. Number one is pretty simple. Fuck you. Uh, Number two is quite clearly we lost because of the refs, and that's the only reason. Terrible refing performance. If they got every single call right, we probably beat them 50-0. So, and then number three,
It's
go fuck
I
yourself.
know who this question is from, and it's pretty funny coming from a guy whose team we beat last week. So yeah,
Wow,
and we throwing
wow,
stones at glass houses, mate.
yeah, cop that.
Well, we got our tips here for the week. I think I messed up and made yours a bit too small. Do you just want to read out your tips, bro?
Yeah, mate, I've gone South Sydney. Although I think it could be a pretty close game. And then I've gone Dolphins quite comfortably. The Roosters backline, I don't know if you checked it out, but it is honestly a funny read. I've then gone the Wars, up the Wars, off the bye as well, so a bit fresh. Raiders over Eels pretty comfortably, I think, as well. And then Tigers over Titans just because I'm a Tigers fan. But if I'm being honest, I really don't feel that great about it. The only redeeming quality is that we're at Leichhardt Oval.
Well, we do not tend to do well at milestone games at Leichhardt. So, because it's the last game at Leichhardt for I think a year or 2 years, while it's getting redeveloped. So, yeah,
I'm
bit
going,
nervous about that one, like yourself. I mean, we have the exact same tips, so
mate,
it's not really a hard one this
we're
round.
clued
But
in. We're clued in.
yeah, I'm really worried about our game, especially with no carousel. But I'm hearing there might be a new debutant on Sunday for the Tigers, so should be
Oh,
good. Should be good.
is that one of my cousins?
Are you Fijian as well?
Mate, I'm everything, all right? I'm from the islands.
You are whatever you say you are.
True.
All right, well, that's it for today, guys. Thank you for tuning in to another episode, and tune into next week where we'll be doing an Origin preview. So that's always fun.
Good stuff. Thanks, mate. Appreciate it.
Thank yous.